I guess this time of year people feel a little more patriotic than usual, and we're grateful to those who sacrificed for our freedom. Rob Wiles met a man in Murfreesboro who answered the call many years ago and today still shares his memories in a special way.
When you drop by Mr. Fane Haynes' place of business in Murfreesboro, you might find him spending some time talking to previous employees, recalling more than 60 years in business, much of it as a groundbreaking candy wholesaler.
You know, we was the first to start taking the candy out of the showcases. They had it all in glass showcases before that time, and we couldn't even buy displays for open displays. We built them ourselves out of plywood and put the displays up and put the candy on it. We'd tell the merchants if he'd let us put in a display that we would furnish the display and service it for him and increase his candy sales, and which we did.
Mr. Haynes would have some mighty interesting stories to tell if the candy business were all he'd ever done, but it's not. Not by a long shot. Fane Haynes found himself in the same position as millions of other Americans back in the 1940s. There was a war on, and he was drafted, member of a tank destroyer group. He landed at D-Day.
My gun alone, the first 10 days, I fired 1,001 rounds, first 10 days.
He fought literally for months without rest until the Battle of the Bulge.
My commanding officer ordered us to surrender. He said, all of my men has either been killed or wounded, and from here on out, it'll be a useless loss of lives. So he lined us up in the street with our hands over our head like this, and they pulled up a tank right in front of us, and he thought they was gonna take us prisoner, and all of a sudden, he turned the machine gun on us, backwards and forth, and he fired till he couldn't see nobody moving. But I happened to be on the street on the far side next to the curb and gutter, and I dropped to the pavement before his machine gun could get around to me. I laid there and didn't move like I was dead until he pulled the tank, turned it around, went back the other way. When he got out of sight, I got up and walked off, and out of the 30, far as I know, I was the only one that walked away from it.
Walked away only to be captured and then, incredibly, to escape and make his way back to American lines. It's a story that belongs in a novel, or at least a museum.
This was my map that I escaped with, and I started right here at Falling Brussels, Germany, and they marched us under shotgun by foot all the way up here at a little town right off the map at Barnstead. I wrote that on there with a pencil.
So Mr. Haynes has set up just such a museum in his business, and he's happy to show anyone who stops by around the place.
People ought to think about the war and the sacrifices that people made during the war.
Still, Mr. Haynes had such a tough time in the war, a horrific time. Really, you might think having all these things around would be too much, too many memories, too many thoughts.
Once you're through a war, it touches you, and you're just not the same, I guess. And it was very hard for me to forget some of those battles and stuff. I was pitted right against the German gunners for 6 months and 4 days as either me or them. I didn't have any regrets of what I did during the war. I was sworn in to do a job, you know, and I was trained 18 months, and I thought it was my job to do that, and Hitler had to be taken out. After we saw what all Hitler had done to people and everything, that he had to be taken out. And I didn't do anything during the war that I had any regrets about.
Given Mr. Haynes' experiences in the war and his deep beliefs, isn't too surprising that when he decided to expand his business, he expanded it right into a patriotic kind of business.
Good morning, Haynes Flags and Flagpoles. How may I help you?
I'm a patriotic soul, you know, being a veteran and all, and I've got a 30-foot flag here at the candy company that I fly. I fly a 30-foot flag at my house out there, and I have for years, and I enjoy the flags.
People who buy flags and poles from Mr. Haynes also enjoy them, or, as Shannon Woodfin Parsons of the Woodfin Memorial Chapel says, find them comforting.
It doesn't matter if you're a military family or not. I think it's a big comfort to families. Being an American, I feel very proud to live here, and I think others do as well. And so I think that's why, the exact reason why we have it.
Our flag represents our country, and it represents the freedom that we have.
It's a symbol that has real meaning to most of us, and a special meaning to soldier, veteran, businessman Haynes of Murfreesboro.